So it's Monday the 20th of April, 2020, and I want to start off by apologising for getting a bit emotional at the end of one of my videos yesterday. I toyed with the idea of whether or not to take it down, and decided to, or put it up in the first place. I decided to leave it because it's real, and it is what it is. I think the tears come more from a sense of relief of speaking, sharing thoughts, and toying about with that. And also, when I make videos, I try to go emotionally into them so that things come to me. I try to get caught up in that moment, if you know what I mean, to be able to speak frankly, and string it all together, because I don't take no notes, I don't do anything. I may sort of delete some of the videos I make because I don't feel right about them, and that's only fair enough. Don't we have thoughts go around our head, conflicting points of view, and we get rid of the ones that we don't sort of feel are right. We go by this in here and see what comes out of it. But yeah, I think that's where that emotional side come from. But I do apologise. It's not my aim to bring anybody down or anything like that. If anything, it's almost like tears of relief, should I say, being able to express yourself. Yeah, so that aside, there is a sense of, I suppose there's a sense of pity. I, for want of a better word, I'd say pity for those who think that they're just going to be able to go back out and get a job and get their jobs back and carry on with their lives. Obviously, that's never going to happen. The likes of you and I know that this has changed everything forever, and probably one of the biggest ways that it's important to, that the biggest ways that it's going to affect our lives in the future is probably food. The knee-jerk reaction of our governments around the world will cause massive loss of life. It will be tried to be played down, manipulation of the figures, all what they're basically doing at the moment with the virus. You'll find stories will come out of, how manipulated the figures was done just to be able to keep us in lockdown. And the same thing will happen. They'll always have an excuse out, and they put these bunch of people up, and they'll resign. So you get into a group of 2 or 3, or maybe even one person they'll blame it on, and that person will resign, and we're expected to believe the next person that stands up, and the cycle goes on. It's ridiculous, really, that we ever believe in anything they say ever at all. But that's the way it's done. Someone just resigns. No one goes to jail. No one gets anything wrong with them. No one. Nothing happens. It just goes on. And the massive loss of life is at the hands of the knee-jerk reaction of governments, ministers, whatever you've got ruling your country, around the world, and their knee-jerk reaction to this, which will kill many, many more. I mean, the famine levels, for instance, at the moment is so when the famine levels were like 50 people would die out of every 100,000. That used to be the old famine levels, and they said we've got to do something about this. And they managed to bring it down through mass agriculture and everything else, and whatever else they want to sort of make us believe it's because of. We managed to bring it down through that machine, that cycle, that finely tuned machine, which has now been kicked into the dirt. We managed to bring it down to 0.5 people out of every 100,000. So there's half a person around there somewhere that's still alive. because of the new policies or the availability of food. Here we go again. And so basically that will go rocket right back up again. Who knows where that figure is going to be and whether or not it'll be manipulated to try and bring it down a bit. But I can see it going more than 50 out of every 100,000 that die of hunger every year and on the planet, because fertilization isn't reaching the places. People aren't getting seeds put in the ground. Animals are being killed because they can't feed them at the moment. Lots of chickens. So you're not getting any of your fruit, your veg, everything, all the harvesting. You know, people aren't flying around the planet. Things aren't being distributed so well, even though they may call them essentials or whatever. You know, what happens to all the fresh food that was in restaurants? And I know a lot of it is frozen, but what happens to all that? That was binned because they couldn't sell it. You know, there's a massive shortage of food going on at the moment. And, you know, the good thing is that we can foresee that and maybe buy loads of things. You know, I personally go for things like tins of corned beef, which are usually around 2025, the date on them. So, I mean, as you know, they last many more years than that. But that would be like your emergency sort of food. There is food distribution people out there who've got dry packed food, but, you know, it's up to you which you want to go for, really. A lot of them are on back order now, and their sales have gone up in recent months, you know, since all this happened, by 40 times, 40x. So there's even a shortage of these people who are supplying these foods that last 25 years, say. And, you know, I think that's because a lot of people are aware that there's a big food shortage going on, and food will never be as cheap as it is right now because of the irresponsible actions of our governments around the world and leaders. We're now they've now killed off more people than the virus ever could. That's what I'm saying. And there's a sense of sadness towards all that, and you know, what people got to come, really. On a positive note, you know, there's those of us who do get these insights and things, and we share our knowledge. We're still conscious enough not to believe, like, don't worry, my master will look after me. They will award me some money. I will get what I want. You know, whatever these people believe in. You know, we're outside of that belief system, if you know what I mean, to become more self-sufficient. And perhaps it's never been so important to be more self-sufficient than it is now. Very hard to do. You know, I kept all my old hand tools, for instance. I knew even the saws that you can resharpen. I've got all the tools to resharpen the saws. I don't even know if I need that, but I always thought that you know, you need to stay as independent as you can. I've always got old cars or cars that I know I can work on and fix, or spares for the parts that I wouldn't be able to get a hold of in a crash or something that happened really bad. So that all aside, I woke up. I was tormented again last night. I wouldn't say tormented. You wake up in witching hour. Part of that waking up in witching hours, you do get sort of some clarity of thought. It's like nothing's going on consciously with people around the planet. It's just come to me now, by the way. It's like everybody's settled down and sort of in that unconscious state of sleeping, or at least in your local area, and it filters out all the thoughts. Instead of all the thoughts being bombarded from other people, you know, suddenly they've all gone and relaxed, and it's the middle of the night when most people are in bed, and then suddenly you've got that clarity to connect with the unconscious in some way and get insights. And yeah, it's not necessarily the time on the clock that says when you're going to get these insights, even though a lot of us wake up at certain times, like 3:13. Remember, that's just a time. It's just a man-created time. That is basically part of. It can be made forward or backwards at certain seasons and everything else. So there's nothing to do with that. It's to do with the symbolism of it. You know, when you wake up at the same time and you look at the clock, that's not that time is important. It's a way of speaking to you. The universe is sort of connecting with you and saying, this is, take note, you know. I woke up before witching hour last night, which is unusual for me. I usually wake up on 3 o'clock or just after. You know, it used to be 3:13 all the time, or 3:33. But yeah, and I was awake for a long time, so I didn't get a very good night's sleep. I feel all right now. I feel all right at the moment, but I didn't get a very good night's sleep. But one of the things that come to me, and I don't very often put these things out. I just watch them, and then when they come true, I'm like, oh my God, this is what we need to do next. This is why you need to be in touch with that spiritual side of you in order to survive anything. And there was actually I don't remember the author now. I wish I did. But there's a guy who wrote a book in the early 1900s, and one of his sentences was, the only chance of survival at certain points in history is to be in touch with your spiritual side, because it will warn you of things that you couldn't possibly know in this reality. None of us know what's really going to happen. I mean, who predicted that this would happen? You know, nobody. So none of us are these, these great prophets or anything like that. but we do get connections with the unconscious mind or the future in some way through throwing thoughts or questions out and things coming back. And one of the most important things that came to me last night was that the first telltale sign that a big event's coming will be a massive, for the likes of you and I, like average folks, will be a massive surge in car accidents. So if you live in a developed part of the world and you see people driving around, all of a sudden people are having accidents everywhere, and you think, oh, that's the second accident I've seen along this road today, and and accidents are peaking everywhere. That's the insight I got last night. You could say told, whatever it is, those thoughts that come to you from nowhere that really mean something significant. That was the one last night. So I don't usually share these things. I do share them with people, a couple of people I really care about around me, and really sort of love. And as soon as I say anything, they never doubt it, because it always comes true. And there's like the famine thing, it's going to happen. It can't. Nobody. You can't create. You might be able to create money on a computer, but you can't create food on a computer. So that's already set in stone. The food isn't in the ground. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So I think I'll finish it there. And remember, I'm not unhappy in any way. I am unhappy, and I'm happy too. I think these are the most magical times we've ever lived in, and I wouldn't want to miss this for the world. I tell you, it's very insightful, and I think the biggest word is observation. Be the observer. Step back. Don't get involved. Just sit back and look at what's going around you, and throw those thoughts around your head, and you'll get some insights, and that could guide you down a path that will ultimately save your life. You may not realize it at the time. Not just save your life, I mean just guiding you down a path where you come to some sort of understanding that helps you thrive after all this is gone. So yeah, that's it for today. But I am going to try and work today, even though I have got a bit of an ankle injury at the moment. But yeah, so if I do make any more today, it's because I haven't gone to work. But speak to you later.